Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. In today's video we're going to take a look at one of the many different warbands in Age of Sigmar Warcry. We're going to take a look at all the fighters available to this warband, what they do on the tabletop, the abilities the warband has, and how to build a foursome on the tabletop as well. Along with this we'll look at some interesting ally options as well for the warband. Today's video will focus on the Ydrilan Riverblades, Lumineth Realm Lords who fight like the rivers of the Realm of Light. Today's video is sponsored by Gap Games, a fantastic miniature wargaming store in Queensland, Australia. They stock a wide variety of miniature wargames from all things Games Workshop to some of my personal favourites, Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings, and all things Modifius wargames as well. Use our affiliate code in the link below to help support both this fantastic store and the channel as well. The warband's reaction is called Lethal Gaia. This they can use at any time. They're targeted by a melee attack action before the hit rolls are made. For each hit roll from those attacks that is a 1, the attacking model will suffer 3 damage. But if the fighter targeted does have the agile rune mark, then each fighter within 1 inch of them will suffer 3 damage instead. Riverblades. This ability, which can be used by any of your fighters for a double, first of all increases your movement characteristic by 1 for each action the fighter takes this activation. Now for each of those actions other than weight actions you roll a dice, and on a 2+ you can deal 1 damage to an enemy fighter after that action is completed. A nice, essentially improved rush. Rapid's Rising Leap. For a double, any fighter with the elite rune mark can count as flying when moving, though they cannot move more than 3 inches vertically upwards during this, as they're essentially just jumping up. Warcry Strike, a fighter with the leader rune mark can use, and what this does is increase the strength of their attacks for the activation by 1 for just a double. Standing Wave Stance, a triple ability that is available to anyone in the warband. You can use this ability if a fighter has not moved, and after they use this ability they cannot move either. Until the end of their activation they gain +1 strength and attacks, and until the end of the turn they'll also gain +1 defense. Release the River, another triple ability. This can be used by a fighter with the leading rune mark. Until the end of the battle round, friendly nearby fighters can add a bonus up to equal half the value of the ability, rounding up, to their movement, really pushing up the speed of your warband. Boiling Wrath. This is the warband's quad ability and can be used by anyone. The fighter can make a number of bonus actions which can be any combination of move, attack or disengage actions, and these are equal to the amount of fighters that have been taken down in your warband. Fantastic in the late game, and a quad that is actually generally better than Rampage if used in the late game or when you've got lots of fighters taken out. In this box set we have 3 different variations of the Pure Flood Essential to choose from. The box set will have a single model able to be built as any one of these different variations. All versions of this fighter will have the leader and elite rune marks. Firstly, the leader rune mark will give the fighter access to Warcry Strike, the double ability that gives them +1 strength to their attacks this activation, and the triple ability of Release the River, which will give them extra movement to all nearby allies. The elite rune mark as well will give them Rapid Rising Leap, which is where you can count as flying when moving, though can't move any more than 3 inch higher. The Pure Flood Essential with Ydrilan Warglaive is the cheapest of the 3 variations, coming in at 5 points less than the other 2 variations at 205 points. What sets it apart from the others is its higher strength of 5 and a critical damage value of 5 as well, being the strongest hit out of any of them. The Essential with Master's Blade, meanwhile, will gain an extra attack over its Warglaive counterpart, though it'll drop to strength 4 but has a more consistent damage value of 3 or 4 with a crit. Lastly, we have the Essential with the Thara Darts. This brings range to the fight, has a nice range of 8 that can be used in melee as it has no minimum range. The trade-off though is lower damage than the other 2 with just a critical damage of 3. Next though, we have our first of 2 levels of fighters essentially in the warband alongside our leader, and this is the Crest Dancers. These are our more elite fighters and as such have the elite rune mark. This is the ability will give them a Rapid Rising Leap for a double. They are pretty fragile with just 10 wounds, but a defense of 4 is certainly helpful here. We have 2 variations, and the first of the 2 weapon options is the Twin Spear option. This has a 2-inch range on the weapon and a damage value of 2 with a decent critical damage of 4. Now, the other option we have in the box set is one of your models can be built as a Crest Dancer with Roped Sickle. This fighter's basic damage will drop to 1 instead of 2, though its critical damage will stay the same. Though you will also gain an extra attack and have a longer range of 3 inch with the weapon. Lastly, we have our Stream Runners, our lowest level of fighters in the warband, essentially our red shirts. 8 wounds each and a defense of 3, they are pretty fragile. Like a lot of the warband, with some of the other abilities we do have access to, they can be surprisingly decent for their points cost. The first of our 2 variations of Stream Runner is with River Steel weapons. This fighter has 3 attacks with a strength of 3, doing 1 damage with each hit or 3 damage on a critical hit. A Stream Runner with Crest Blades is the other option, and the kit will allow you to build a single one of your Stream Runners with this option. Now, the Crest Blades will gain an extra attack for their troubles, but they will drop their critical damage down to 2, so they are just 1-2 on the damage. The fighter though will have the Agile Rune Mark, which is great for dealing extra damage with the Warband's reaction. The first ally I'd suggest taking a look at is the Cenari Caligrave. Firstly, with its ranged attack, it'll bring some more short-range damage to the Warband, something the Warband does generally lack. But the Realm Scribe ability it has for a double, which will allow you to pick a point on the battlefield and subtract damage from all nearby friendly fighters of the chosen point, is really useful in such a fragile Warband. Next is the Alaris Stone Mage, who has a useful quad ability. With the Riverblades quad best being used later in the game, having an earlier quad beside Rampage could be an interesting option for you. Now what this does is it'll allow the fighter to deal damage to all nearby enemies of them, but more importantly it'll also halve the movement of all nearby enemies as well, further pushing some of the movement advantages you can have with the Riverblades. Lastly is the High Sentinel, a unit champion of the Venari Auralan Sentinels. While this model will not bring any range damage output to your warband like a regular Venari Sentinel, it will have a triple ability called Sharp-Eyed Scryhawk. This allows you to pick an enemy fighter within 20 inch of this fighter, and until the end of the battle round, anyone attacking the chosen enemy fighter will get an additional attack when doing so. Building up our force from the initial box set, I'd go with the following options. I feel with some of the abilities like Release the River especially, requiring your Essential to be amongst a group of troops for best effect, having the ranged option of the Thyro Darts is best. This also is great because you can upgrade to Strength 5, which is what the Warglaive has, and I think that's probably as high as you need to be going. Meanwhile, building the 2 alternate options for your Crest Blades and Stream Blunders that you have available is probably best as well, and if you were able to, with the kit, do some converting or stuff, I'd probably make all my Stream Runners take the Crest Blades option if I could. Now, splitting up into battle groups, I'd probably go with this disposition. Battle group 1 having my Pure Blood Essential with Thyro Darts. I'd have 2 Crest Dancers, one with Twin Spear and Rope Sickle, and a Stream Runner with River Steel weapons in there as well. This would give me some good protection for my leader, but also have a bunch of models around that can make best use of that movement and stay out of range of enemies as well. Battle Group 2 would be a Crest Dancer with Twin Spear, a Stream Runner with River Steel weapons, and our Stream Runner with Crest Blades. The Crest Blades here, I think, if you've only got the one, would be the most interesting in a secondary warband, as you can have this as sort of a go and die by itself model, you know, send it into a bunch of enemies, hope your opponent attacks, and use your Agile Rune Mark to potentially deal damage before you go down. Now, in our Battle Group 3, we would have the last of our fighters, which would be another Crest Dancer with Twin Spear, and 2 Stream Runners with River Steel weapons. We hope that this video was helpful in getting you started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar Warcry, and that it was able to give you some ideas and inspiration to start your own force in the game. If you have any other questions at all, please comment them down below and we'll endeavour to get back to you. And while you're there, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe and join our Discord server as well, linked in the video's description, for all our future Warhammer Age of Sigmar Warcry content.